see you there. Breakfast is ready downstairs, TE. Disclaimer, I am actually doing this. This is not staged.
Tea there, it's me, Thomas Edward, also known as TE. I'm just having a bit of tea with TE as we speak. And it's what we're on Thursday morning in September. It's nice and have some brekkie and technical tea bags and some milk provided by Tilly up north's brother, actually, you know, the middle brother in the TE family. And I'm just having me brekkie, and then I'm going to show you around Ravenstore, YHA. Hopefully I'll have a wireless mic on so you'll be able to hear me better. But I think you've just been upstairs from what I can gather.
You're right, my son. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're right, my son. Yeah, you're gonna make you a big star. Yeah. Yeah, nice one, my son. Yeah. Oh, yeah, big juicy bone. Yeah, big juicy bone. Yeah, come here. Whoa.
Well, I've had my tea at Ravenstore in the kitchen up there, and this is where I've stayed since Saturday. Now it's Thursday. First day I was here, I went to Trory, so you might have seen that video by now, or you might have not. And the other day I filmed the Shunter walk, so you might have seen that or you might have not. It depends when this video comes out. But we stayed in Ravenstore, and I've stayed here many years over the years. First time I ever stayed here was with my mum about 12 years ago when I was about 14. And we stayed in a side room, and we came, and Mum's old course and the exhaust fell off on the driveway. Well, it fell off in the day, but it fell off in the driveway. And then since then, my brother Tilly up north, who's also famous on YouTube for doing Lancaster and Morecambe vlogs, has done a few summer seasons here, and he did one in 2019 where we stayed twice, and he's doing one this year, 2022, and this is why we've had a holiday here in September, because he's here and he's got us in, and we got a nice room on back. And it was me, TE's mum, cameraman, and Tilly up north, and TE's other brother, who was never been seen on the channels. And we all stayed in the back room up there. You could just see the wing of it. Now Ravenstore here, it looks dead old. And what the funny thing is, it's where we're staying today. It's a YHA, a youth hostel, you know, but it's not for the young, it's for everyone. It's for everyone from young end all the way up to the old end. Like TE's mum has the gold membership for the YHA, you know, she's proper old stock YHA. She has the gold membership card. Even cameraman has a gold card as well. That's how many years they've been in a YHA. But what I was going to say, the interesting thing about this YHA in particular, it's been a YHA longer than it's been a private home. So originally this was a proper stately hall, you know, this is Ravenstore Hall. And they had the Dickey family in it. Mr. Matthew Dickey built this 1906, 1907, and this was his stately home. And he had so much dosh hanging around because he came up from Stockport. He was a mill owner, but he came over to here into Derbyshire to have two mills in the valley. So he had Lytton Mill and he had Cresbrook Mill further down. But he built his house high up so he could watch his workers go down the valley to work. And also the railway was on the opposite bank, what we'll show you a few snippets of. And he built it, and it was a big grand home. But what you see today is totally nothing like when Mr. Matthew was walking up and down here with his pony and trap going to work. Well, not going to work, going to see his men at work at the Lytton Mill. Because here, behind us, there was a third driveway what no longer exists. There was a driveway up there what does exist, and there was a driveway on the back that still exists, but it was all done up. So like all those trees there, that was like a little garden and paths. And pretty much I could stand here in 1907 when this house was built and I could see the top of the driveway, but now it's all covered in trees. So you could see right up to the driveway, and he just had hedges, he had no trees, it was all open, and you could see the 2 posts at the end of the drive. But now it's all overgrown, it's like a whole mini jungle now. And it's not as grand as it once was, even though it wasn't in stately home for many years. It was only a stately home from 1906, 1907 to 1937, and then in 1937 it got sold to the National Trust, and the National Trust in 1938 leased it to YHA for £1 a week. And ever since then, the YHA have been paying the lease, and it's got like a really long lease on it from National Trust, where they can have it, and it's been a YHA ever since. And since the YHA's had it, it's been chopped and changed, and the rooms is like, where you'd have one big grand room, it's got like 2 rooms in it. You know, like the bedrooms upstairs, if you top the walls, there's lots of fake walls about. There's not very many original walls. But having said that, there's still a lot of original features, like the stained glass on the landings are all original. All fireplaces are all kind of original. And there's like, you can tell a lot of the glass is all still single pane as well. There's not a lot of being chopped and changed, but there has at the same time. It's a bit of an odd one, but you've got to come here yourself to look at the history of it, because you have to spend a few days and then you'll see what's original and what's not. But we're going to show you something around the back what got added at a later date in the 70s, and we might show you that next. I'll explain about that part when I get there. But first, we'll go to the garden. It's almost a south wing of Ravenstore Hall, this is, and this is like a terrace. Reminds me a bit of Thomas Mawson terrace. You know, it's flat, where you turn a terrace into a flat bit of land on a slope, because it's all sloping down. You're all going down into the valley down there. And what's interesting about the garden is it doesn't look like it used to do. When this was first a big grand home, where you'd have the Dickey family used to live, it used to have a tennis court right down the bottom down there in the trees, and it had lots of paths flowing down the garden. So you'd have where you're looking at it from the camera, you'd have a path flowing right down and down to the tennis court, and then it would flow down into the field at the bottom, where we'll take you in a bit. So it's even though the terrace is here, a lot of it's gone. It's sort of fallen into the ground a bit. And there's not even many earthworks to tell you that the paths were there. They've sort of all vanished. But there is early pictures where this terrace isn't really here. This terrace has been, I think, from a bit of TE detective work, I think this has been added a much later date, even when YHA, when National Trust owned it, this got sort of put in, because there's early photos and this is not really here, this terrace. But what's interesting about the main feature of the Ravenstore gardens, or grounds, is that monkey puzzle tree there. Now that monkey puzzle tree was planted by Mr. Tibbles, the head gardener, and he planted that just when the house was a few years old. He planted that, and there's a picture in the common room downstairs of that tree of only about 6 foot tall, and now it's like 50, 60 foot tall, maybe 100 foot tall now. So it's grown, and I just think that's the original feature of the house, is that monkey puzzle tree. And they're protected trees as well. You can't do anything with them. You just got to let them grow.
Rod. Hey, Rod, get up. Rod. Yeah, hey, Rod, yeah, listen, it's 10:30. 10:30, yeah, we're checking out today. Yeah, we've got to help Tilly hoover up and clean up before the new guests arrive, yeah? Yeah, all right, yeah. Yeah, so you any good with a vacuum cleaner? Oh, well, I'll show you how to do it, all right, yeah. I'll tell you how to do it, my son, right? I've done a bit of vacuum cleaning in my time, you know, before I got into show business, you know. So come on, let's go. I can hear him now. He's already started. Come on, yeah. No.
So this bit here at the back is this annex what's the staff accommodation. Now Tilly up north is living in there for 6 months. Now this is a much later date feature, and it's actually 1970s sort of feature. You can tell it's very period, flat roof on it. And what this is, the YHA in the early days, when it first started, well, when this first became a YHA in 1938, it was dorms. You had a female dorm and a male dorm, and that's you all slept. All the males slept in this big dorm with all bunks in, and the females were all in one room. And in the modern times now, you can have shared accommodation. The females and the males can go together, but back then you couldn't. So if you had a son, the father and son could go together in one in the dorm, and if you had a daughter and mum, they could go in the female dorm. But you couldn't do it together. You couldn't do a family unit. You couldn't do the TE family unit. That wouldn't have worked. So in the early 70s, they built this little annex, so you could have the first sort of family room, and you could have mum and dad and son and daughter in there. So it was making it more accessible to the family, but originally you couldn't do anything like that in the YHA. It was very sort of strict in a way. But now it's completely, even though there's still dorms right at the top of this hostel, a lot of the rooms, like 85% of the rooms, well 90% of the rooms are, you can have females and males in them. Anyone can go together if you just book your room. But back then you couldn't. But that's a very early feature of having joint rooms together. But now it's staff accommodation. But it's even staff accommodation. Tilly up north is up there. It's like Daddy Wrinkles and Rod sleep in it. So they've had a bit of staff accommodation going on, because animals are not really allowed in YHA, so they've had to stay in there because they can just about get away with it. Otherwise, they get kicked out of the main hostel. Hey, you're meant to be in there hoovering up. You can't have a free stay in staff accommodation, not hoover up. No, go on, get in, get Daddy Wrinkles as well. Get your manager. Right, now that's over and done with. Rod, he's overslept. It's well past 10. He should be out. When YHA, when you're checking out, you should be out by 10 a.m. But he wasn't, so he had to get up and get in there hoovering up, because Tilly up north needed his beak to do a bit of hoovering. So anyway, this is the staff accommodation, what I've just explained and what its original purpose was. But this wooden sort of surrounding, and I don't think the door's original, but the surrounding is the very doorway where T.E.'s mum and Tilly up north as a young baby in the 1970s. Tilly up north was born in the mid-70s, so it's probably about 76, a bit later. Was stood here in front of this door, and the funny thing is, all these years later now, nearly 50 years later, Tilly up north, he's here again with his mum, but he's actually staying in here, outside the very door. He was being held with his mum, and it was here. And I've got a photo to show you, and a photo from now in 2022 to show the difference. Nice bit of wrought iron work here. Look, J&H Broadbench Hollingworth. Oh, it's pretty cool, that is. Just think you get this in Lord's Antiques in Ingleton, these Saudis in the outside. Look, it's been green underneath. It's been YHA green underneath before it's been painted black and white on the text. It's pretty good, that. It's nice. When you come and stay at Ravenstore YHA, the car park where you'll park is the old driveway. So you park at sides there, and Joe the Road Streetwise is parked there, the urban off-roader, in a bit of countryside. And you park all up that side as well, where this van is, right up to the top. And now this is the old driveway. When I was explaining earlier, you could stand in front of the hall and look right up to the top gate, but now you can't, it's just a jungle. But we're going to walk up to the gates because it's still got the original gates on. So this is the, I think it's sort of the north gate, and it comes out onto the road that goes to Tideswell that way, and Millersdale's behind camera. And it's got the original, the plinths either side, like the turrets so to speak, like the big gate posts, are the original ones. And on some of the pictures, what hopefully I can show you, what I've tried to take pictures of and film, you can see these, and and when I was saying before, you could stand at the front of the hall and see these gate posts, and they're all nice and shiny and white, and the driveway was all shiny and white, and the drive had nice big trimmed hedges down the side by Mr. Tibbles, and there would have been none of these trees, it would be all open. It's got some big old gates on it, but I don't think they're original. They look too new to me. I might be wrong, but I don't know if these would have been on when Mr. Matthew or Mr. Dickey, who built the house, I don't know if these would have been original. They looked slightly too new for me, but I don't know, I couldn't tell you. But they're nice wrought iron gates. They don't shut anymore. They're a bit out of, not in functional order anymore, but they're good. All the same, they're good. Like when you're standing at bottom of the garden, and Matthew's cleaning, Tilly up north is cleaning our room.
That's right, Rod. Now, hold it harder, Rod. Hold it. Pretend you've got a great big worm in your mouth, right? And you try and pull it out of the ground. That's it. Yeah, that's it.
He's also known as Matthew, but he's up there. Look, you can see him doing the white sheets. He probably, woo! There you go. He's waving. He might not be able to see that, but he's waving. And it's a good view down here of the south side of Ravenstore and the old monkey puzzle tree. Right, so we've come down to the bottom of YHA, and this goes on to Bellamy's Bank down here. We actually did a night walk the other day, me and the cameraman. Walked down there and walked into the valley down to Lytton Mill, and the Crestbrook Mill's right at the bottom. And that's for another time. That is when we come back and stay with Tilly up north. We're going to do some walks and look at Lytton Mill and Crestbrook Mill, what Mr. Dickey used to own, who had the hall. And over there is Monkswell Trail. That's the old St Pancras to Manchester Central Railway on the bank, and over there it's sort of hidden in the woods. And if you want to watch a special Patreon video what involves that line, Patreon links below. And but you can walk all the way down the valley. You can to Topley Pike right at the end. Up that way you can do it at Topley Pike, and then Monkswell Dale's down at the bottom. But we'll show you that on a later date. So if you enjoyed today's video, make sure you give us a like, a subscribe, a comment below, and remember to click that big bell. Ding!